Hi guys, today I'm going to be showing you some advanced movement using the arrow keys or the WASD keys in Scratch. So you may remember our tutorial for simple moving. It is still in the channel. You can go check it out once this video is done. But the movement I'm going to be showing you today is a bit more reliable than having this giant script. So it is pretty simple and pretty compact, and there isn't much to it, so you may be able to do this pretty easily. So what you want to do first is disconnect the forever loop. You can put it in your backpack if you need to and remove it because it might be a bit too annoying. But if you want, you can keep it somewhere off screen or in an extra sprite if you need to. And we're going to start coding. First, what we want to do is go into custom blocks. As far as I'm sure, this is the first time I've made a custom block in the channel. But what you want to do is go to custom blocks, press make a block, and what we want to do is name it whatever you want, but I'm going to be naming it move. And I'm going to add a numerical input of X and a numerical input of Y. And run without screen refresh. For now, we're keeping it on run without screen refresh. If you think there are some bugs with it, then feel free to just right click, press edit, and don't tick it, but it's whatever you wish. Then right under the original when green flag clicked, put a forever loop, go to my blocks, and pull the move custom block inside of the forever loop. Now this is where things get interesting. In a previous video, I have showcased this with an example, but if needed, I can showcase it again. So what you want to do is get a subtraction operator from the operator section and two AND blocks from the operator section, and put them both in each slot of the subtraction operator. We want to go to sensing and get a key pressed block, a key pressed boolean, and pick whichever one you want. I'm going to be using the key D pressed for my right movement, and for it to work on both of the keys, you can also duplicate it and set it to key right arrow pressed and put them in the first AND section. Now this is something I didn't mention before, but you want to put the key D pressed and key right arrow pressed in the first slot, mostly because if you switch them up and put it over here, then whenever you press the D key, your sprite would be moving this way. It would be moving left. So what you want to do is put it on the left side of the subtraction operator and duplicate it. If you want, you can completely get rid of the AND block we previously put in the second one and put in the duplicated one and set it to key A pressed and key left arrow pressed. So if you haven't watched the previous video, I can show how this would work. So what I'm going to do is make a new variable, and I'm going to show it just so you could see. And I'm going to get a set exe, short for example is what I would like to do, and drag the first input, which is key D pressed and key right arrow pressed, into the into the value of the set example 2. And then we are surrounded by a forever loop. Just so you know, this isn't a required step. But see, normally what it would do is say that the example is false, which means I'm not pressing the D key or the right arrow. But if I hold the D key, wait 1 second. Oh wait, not an AND block. We need it to be an OR block. Sorry about that. But it needs to be an OR operator. And now if we hold D, it says true, and once we let go, it says false. The right arrow, it says true. Once we let go, it's false. This wouldn't be helping much at all if you're trying to do some movement, because either way, your character will be moving on the x-axis no matter which key you're pressing. So, when we put it in a subtraction operator, what Scratch does it sets it back to 0, and this time put the key D press or key right arrow press back in the subtraction operator and put it back in the example. And now if we hold the D key, it's set to 1, because when we use subtraction operators, Scratch knows we're playing with numbers, even though we may not be. So it counts as 1, negative, and negative 1. 1 for when you're moving right, 0 for when you're not moving anywhere, and negative 1 if you're moving left. So after we've gotten, so this is only the example. If you have built up this piece of code, then it will be pretty simple. You'll just put it inside of the move, and now you may see it is quite long. And keep in mind, we are basically going to double this. So now we've gotten the basic movement. Well, the basic movement for the X position. And what I just realized, wait, so we don't actually have anything yet, because the reason you might suspect that it is pretty much over is because we've named it move or something like that. But something that you haven't noticed is the fact that under the define move variable, it is still set to, it still doesn't have anything under it, which means it doesn't do anything. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this entire key D pressed or key right arrow pressed minus key A pressed or key left arrow pressed. And we're putting it inside of the second input for the move custom block in the forever loop of the when green flag clicked. And now it's time to work with the define block, because as mentioned earlier, it still doesn't do anything. Oh, and before you do anything, make sure that in the second input, it has the W and up arrow and S or down arrow. Mostly because it wouldn't do anything at all. And it would change your X and Y position whenever you press the A and D keys. And the W and the WS keys wouldn't do much. And now what you want to do is under the define move XY script, we could obviously just use a change X by, change Y by block from the motion, but that is really, really limiting us. So what we want to do is go to variables and make a new variable for this sprite only, make sure. And we're actually going to make 2 variables for this sprite only. Speed X for this sprite only, and speed Y again for this sprite only. And now what you want to do is we need to get a set speed x, go to operators, and get a multiply operator. We want to set speed x to 0.7. I'm going to be using 0.7. Feel free to use variables to put in the slot so people can change the speed. But for now, I'm just going to set it to 0.7. Set speed x to 0.7 multiplied by this red x block, which I got from dragging from the define block. And we duplicate the entire thing. We put it under the speed x, the set speed x. We don't want to mess with any of these. All we want to do is set speed y to, instead of the red x, we put in the red y. Again, from dragging from the define move xy top hat block. And after you've done these, you can get 2 change blocks. We want to change speed x and change speed y by, again, we want to take a multiplying variable for both of these, and we want to take a multiplying variable and put it inside of these again. But instead of the red x and y blocks, we want to scroll down and grab the speed x variable oval inside of the change speed x by 0.7 multiplied by speed x, and do the same thing for speed y. Now just to explain, these numerical inputs I first put in, 0.7 and 0.7, is the amount of speed that the player goes in. And this is the air resistance. So basically how fast they accelerate and stuff like that. I'm going to be setting that to 0.9. And again for the same one, 0.9. And the final part is scroll down and change x by, don't worry about the ball if you've already set this to the green flag clicked, but change x by speed x and change y, and we want to duplicate it and set it to change y by speed y. Again, you are allowed to use multiplying variables to make so there is a better speed variable almost. But right now we're doing this. And something we didn't do in the first video is grab a go to XY block, set both of them to 0 or wherever the starting point is. Otherwise, they won't go back to where they started. And also, just for the sake of it, I'm going to go into the direction and I'm going to set their turnstile to left and right so they don't flip over like that. And when it starts as well, I'm going to point in direction 90. That's all I'm doing right under the when green flag clicked, not in the forever loop, otherwise the ball wouldn't move. And I'll clean up blocks mostly because there isn't anything else, and it's just something I like to do whenever my codes are messy. So now if I start this, first something I forgot to do is hide the example variable because it's useless now. And if I hold the A and D keys and W and S, you can see it moves really slow. Now, sometimes you may want it to be slow, but sometimes, if you want, you can just, you can increase this. So instead of 0.7, you can set it to 2, because that's moving it 0.7 pixels at a time. And now if I start it, it goes a bit faster. Now, as far as I'm sure, if we set this to a higher variable, the air resistance, if we do that, then what would happen is we actually go faster. So the lower you put it, the slower the sky goes. But this is almost the max acceleration, you could say. Instead of air resistance, you can set it to max acceleration. So you can set it to like, if you want, if you're really up to it, you can set it to like multiply by 15. So what it's gonna do, it's gonna move really fast. It's gonna move really, really fast. Yeah, so you might not want to put it that far. You could put it at somewhere reasonable, maybe 3. 3 sounds like a good idea to me. Yeah, it's going really well. This is how fast I would suspect my games to be. So that did take about like 17 minutes to really explain this, but in the end, you came up with a really, really interchangeable script. And here's a neat trick. If you want, you can drag both of these pieces of script inside of your backpack. And if you are wondering what I'm doing, is I'm going to show how reusable this is. So I'm going to create a new project. I'll just name it, you can name it whatever. I'm just going to name it EXE again. And we'll be using the Scratchcat for this one, mostly because there isn't much else. And if we just simply drag these two scripts out of our backpack and clean up blocks, because that looks like a mess. If we start the project, we can still use the same scripts. We aren't like adding any more code to this. We literally just drag and dropped it into this one random little project over here, and we are already moving Scratchcat. So I suggest you make a sort of movement project, I guess. So whenever you need to implement movement, you can just go into the project, drag and drop them in your backpack, and implement them into another project you're making. So this is a neat way of movement that I just wanted to show you. Mostly because it's just really funny how that subtraction operator makes Scratch think that we are using numbers, because it is really supposed to be a true and false situation. But either way, it works out really well. I really hope you liked the video. If you did, please do like and subscribe, as it does not take much time at all, literally probably less than 3 seconds. And I do really appreciate it. It does help a lot. So that's all for the video. See ya.